Hi everyone, Steve Harvell with Creative Ventures, and welcome to our latest edition in the Over Coffee video series. This last week I did a really interesting and fun podcast with a group from Australia. They asked great questions. It was really fun. One of the things they wanted to know was, as a voracious reader, what am I reading? What do I read? What are some of my favorite business books that I've read over the years? And I couldn't pull them off the top of my head, but now I've had a little time to think about it and went out to our large bookshelf where I keep everything. I thought I'd share a couple of those with you this month. So the first one is a book by Alan Jacobs called How to Think. Now, Alan's a teacher, and in the book, he describes one of the great weaknesses we have within our education system, and that is we teach people outcomes, but we don't teach people how to think to get there. This book is a great primer of how to think properly. I loved it. It was really good. Now, here's Cal Newport's fantastic book about deep work, about what it takes for you to understand how important things need different kinds of focus, about what you need to do to be able to get into that zone of what you're trying to do and what the outcome might be. You can tell from the side notes that I've got a lot of notes in this book because I thought it was just fantastic. It's a great read. Now I'm going to share a book with you called Systemics. This is a book by John Gall, and it's almost impossible to find. It's the best book I've ever read about how systems work, about how processes work, about what the good and the bad is and how to combat them. I feel bad about showing it to you because though it's a spectacular book, you'll have a really hard time finding it. But if you do, it'll be worth it. You'll read it cover to cover. Now, Gar Reynolds wrote a book called Presentation Zen. Now, this book is almost a Bible of how to write, design, and deliver great presentations. I've been doing stage presentations for 45 years. Each time I've kind of developed my own style, my own way, but it was always augmented by a quick review of what the idea of how simple things work visually. Presentation Zen is a great book to read if you do presentations. Now I'm going to share with you one of my favorite books of all time, business books of all time. It doesn't have to be crazy at work. This is a book based upon the company 32 Signals. Is that right? 37 Signals. Well, Jason Fried and David Hansen wrote it about their company. And we use their product Basecamp. I have never read a business book more specifically written to how I see business, how I think things should work, and how they do work in this most simple manner at their company. I cannot tell you how many times I've referred to this book, how many times I've read it. It is the ultimate in how to simply design a culture that produces outcome and keeps everybody kind of in their happy place. I cannot recommend this book enough. Next on the list is Robert Fritz's great book called Creating. This is the Bible of creativity. It is an unbelievable read about that part of our humanity, that part of how our consciousness taps into what it means to be creative, to take something from nothing and develop it into something. He did an unbelievable job. It's an older book, still available out there, but if you're interested in the aspects of creativity and how that creativity attaches to what you do in your career and business, you ought to read Fritz's book because it's fantastic. Now, lastly, I'm going to give you one of the most important books I've ever read. This is a book by Hans Rosling called Factfulness. Factfulness not only deals with business, but it really deals with the world and your perspective on how you see things, and how at the beginning there's a test, and you take the test, and then each chapter tells you how you answered the questions in the test wrong because your perspective and understanding of what the real world is like is incorrect. This book, as you can tell from how many times I've gone through and marked important things, to me is one of the most impactful books I've ever read in my life. So there's a few books that I would have loved to have shared and had a little more time to do on my recent podcast, but I thought you might find interesting. Take a little time, read. People that read, understand, and know. Take the time, read something. Thanks for visiting. Look forward to seeing you next time on Over Coffee.